Cast your mind back to October the 15th, 1963. Harold Macmillan's government is still reeling from the Profumo scandal. Charles de Gaulle has just slammed the door on Britain's hopes of joining the European Economic Community. And yet, at the Earl's Court Motor Show, something remarkable is about to happen. Standard Triumph is unveiling a car that will redefine what a British executive saloon could be. The Triumph 2000. For £1,094, 2 shillings and 1 penny with purchase tax, you could buy a car that offered levels of comfort and refinement previously associated with Jaguars and Rovers, but in a more compact, economical package. It was a bold gamble for a company that had nearly collapsed just 3 years earlier. What made this launch even more dramatic? Just 1 week before, on October the 9th, Rover had unveiled their P6 at the very same venue. 2 British manufacturers, both targeting the same ambitious young professionals and middle managers, both promising continental sophistication with British engineering, both launching within 7 days of each other. The battle for the executive car market was about to begin. The timing couldn't have been more significant. Britain in 1963 was a nation caught between prosperity and uncertainty. Average weekly earnings had risen to around £14, and hire purchase agreements were making car ownership more accessible than ever. The post-war generation of executives, men who'd climbed the ranks through merit rather than inheritance, were looking for cars that reflected their modern outlook. They didn't want their father's Vanguard, and they couldn't quite afford a Jaguar. Triumph and Rover both saw this gap and raced to fill it. The social changes sweeping Britain made this the perfect moment for such cars. The class system was evolving, university education was expanding. Technical and commercial professions were creating a new middle class that valued competence over pedigree. These buyers wanted cars that signaled success without ostentation. A Jaguar Mark X was too grand, too traditional. An Austin Westminster or Humber Hawk felt dated. What they needed was something European in character, modern in execution, and British in origin. Today, we're examining why the Triumph 2000 became one of Britain's most significant executive cars, how it carved out a market alongside its Rover rival, and why it remains a fascinating piece of automotive history more than 6 decades later. Section 1. Genesis of the 2000. To understand the Triumph 2000, you need to understand Standard Triumph's desperate position in the late 1950s. The company was struggling, the Standard Marque was dying, and Triumph's image was split between small sports cars and the outdated Vanguard saloon. They needed something modern, something that could compete in the growing executive market. Development began under the codename Zebu in 1957. The original concept was ambitious, perhaps too ambitious. Engineers wanted a separate chassis with a rear-mounted transaxle and a modern body. But when Leyland Motors acquired Standard Triumph in 1961, priorities shifted. Under new management, the project was renamed Barb and given an impossible deadline: be ready for the October 1963 Motor Show. This is where Giovanni Michelotti enters our story. The Italian designer had already worked with Triumph on the Herald and had a proven track record with Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and Ferrari. According to period accounts, Michelotti completed his styling proposal in a remarkably swift 3-month period during autumn 1961. His design emphasized a 6-window greenhouse for spaciousness and visibility, clean lines that looked modern without being radical, and a unitary monocoque construction for enhanced structural integrity. Michelotti understood what British buyers wanted. The design had to look expensive without being flashy. It needed to photograph well in black and white, because that's how most people would see it in newspapers and magazines. And crucially, it had to age gracefully. Buyers expected to keep these cars for 5 or 6 years, and the styling couldn't look dated after 2. The 6-window design became a signature element, giving the car an airy, spacious feel that contrasted sharply with the heavy, angular designs still common in British saloons. The engineering team, led by Harry Webster, faced enormous challenges. they had to create an all-new monocoque body, develop independent suspension for all four wheels, and make it all work with a modified version of the Vanguard's six-cylinder engine, all in just over 2 years. Testing began in earnest throughout 1962 and 1963 at MIRA, the Motor Industry Research Association Proving Ground. Section 2. The specification that mattered. Let's talk numbers, because this is where the Triumph 2000 made its case. Under that Michelotti-styled bonnet sat a 1,998 cubic centimeter inline six-cylinder engine. That's 121.92 cubic inches in the old money. The compression ratio was 8.5 to 1, a meaningful increase from the Vanguard's 8 to 1, made possible by the increasing availability of higher-octane fuel. Twin Stromberg 150 CD carburetors fed this smooth six-cylinder, producing 90 brake horsepower at 5,000 revolutions per minute and 117 pound-feet of torque at 2,900 revolutions per minute. Now, those aren't headline-grabbing figures, but paired with a curb weight of around 2,600 pounds, they delivered respectable performance for the era. Contemporary road tests put the 0 to 60 time at approximately 13.5 seconds, with a top speed hovering around 100 miles per hour. More importantly, that six-cylinder engine delivered what the target market really wanted: smoothness, refinement, and effortless cruising on Britain's expanding motorway network. The standard transmission was a 4-speed manual gearbox with synchromesh on all gears, still a relative luxury in 1963, but Triumph knew their market. Overdrive was available as an extra, transforming the car into a relaxed motorway cruiser. For those who preferred, the Borg-Warner Type 35 3-speed automatic transmission became available from mid-1964 onwards. The chassis specification reads like a checklist of modern engineering. McPherson struts at the front, semi-trailing arms at the rear, all independent suspension using coil springs, rack and pinion steering, servo-assisted disc brakes on the front wheels with drums at the rear. For 1963, this was cutting-edge stuff, the kind of specification you'd expect from a continental manufacturer, not a British company that had been teetering on bankruptcy 3 years earlier. The engineering choices reflected hard-won lessons. The McPherson struts saved space and weight while providing excellent geometry for handling. The semi-trailing arm rear suspension gave a good compromise between ride comfort and road holding, critical for a car that had to work equally well on congested city streets and the new M1 motorway. The rack and pinion steering delivered the kind of precision feedback that sports car drivers appreciated, while remaining light enough for easy parking. The dimensions told an interesting story. At 106 inches, the wheelbase provided genuine interior space. Overall length came in at 173.8 inches, compact by American standards, but spacious enough for 5 adults. The width of 65 inches and height of 56 inches gave it a low, modern stance that looked right at home in the 1960s. Section 3. Launch and Market Reception. Although the Triumph 2000 was presented to the public at the London Motor Show on October the 15th, 1963, volume production didn't actually begin until January 1964. This delay was deliberate. Triumph knew Rover was launching their P6 just days before, and they wanted to get cars into the hands of carefully selected customers and journalists to build word-of-mouth momentum. The price positioning was crucial. At £905 basic, or £1,094, 2 shillings and 1 penny, with purchase tax, the Triumph undercut its main rivals significantly. The Rover P6 2000 came in at £1,264, 9 shillings and 7 pence with purchase tax. That £170 difference bought you a 6-cylinder engine instead of the Rover's 4-cylinder, and for many buyers, that smooth straight 6 was worth the Triumph badge alone. The motoring press responded enthusiastically. Autocar magazine described the car as having golden prospects, praising its competitive pricing spacious interior, and agile performance. Motorsport highlighted its exceptional road manners and silence, crediting the all-independent suspension and rack-and-pinion steering. There were criticisms, of course. Some reviewers noted that the engine's refinement fell short of more premium competitors, a consequence of its vanguard origins. What the journalists understood and what buyers quickly discovered was that the Triumph 2000 delivered a complete package. Yes, a Jaguar Mark II had a more refined engine. Yes, a Rover P6 had more innovative engineering. But the Triumph offered six-cylinder smoothness, modern styling, good handling, and reasonable running costs, all in one accessible package. For a young sales manager or junior executive, it was the perfect car to park outside head office. Production ramped up quickly. By the end of 1964, Triumph had built 18,490 units. The factory was running at over 350 cars per week. Combined with its main rival, the Rover P6, the two cars captured over 80% of the United Kingdom's 2-litre and above saloon segment by the mid-1960s. Together, they had created a new market category, the compact executive car. Section 4, the Rover rivalry. The competition between the Triumph 2000 and Rover P6 2000 became one of the most fascinating rivalries in British motoring history. Released just 7 days apart in October 1963, they were aimed at exactly the same buyer, the upwardly mobile professional who wanted sophistication without the running costs of a 3-litre executive car. The Rover brought technical innovation. Its base unit construction with bolt-on panels was inspired by the Citroën DS. It featured a Didion rear axle, 4-wheel disc brakes with the rears mounted inboard, and a brand new overhead camshaft 4-cylinder engine producing 104 brake horsepower. In 1964, it won the inaugural European Car of the Year award, beating the formidable Mercedes-Benz 600. The Triumph countered with different strengths: that smooth 6-cylinder engine, a lower price, slightly more interior space, particularly for rear passengers. And crucially, from autumn 1965 onwards, an estate version that Rover couldn't match until much later. Sales figures tell the story. The Triumph generally outsold the Rover, though not dramatically. Combined Triumph and Rover 2000 production ran at something under 50,000 units per year, limited more by production capacity than demand. Between them, they transformed their manufacturers' fortunes. Rover's 1964 sales nearly doubled compared to 1963. Triumph's overall sales improved by roughly 20%, reaching 120,000 units for both 1964 and 1965. The rivalry intensified as both cars evolved. Triumph introduced ventilation improvements in October 1966, addressing what had been previously rather ineffective fresh air delivery. Rover countered with the twin-carb 2000 TC in 1966. When Rover introduced their V8-powered 3500 in April 1968, Triumph responded with a 2.5 PI. Using Lucas petrol injection to extract 132 brake horsepower from a bored-out 2,498 cubic centimeter version of the 6-cylinder engine. Section 5. Production and Evolution. The Mark I Triumph 2000 remained in production until 1969, with 113,157 units built. During this period, Triumph made numerous detail improvements while keeping the basic specification intact. The estate version, launched in autumn 1965, was particularly significant. Built with body shells partly constructed by car bodies in Coventry, it commanded a premium of £250 over the saloon. For the Mark I, the estate was the same length as the saloon, making it a practical choice for families without sacrificing the car's compact dimensions. The estate became popular with professionals who needed to carry equipment: surveyors, architects, sales representatives. It offered the prestige of the 2000 saloon with genuine utility. The load area was well trimmed, The split rear seat folded to create a flat floor, and unlike many estates of the era, it didn't look like a commercial vehicle. This was an executive car that happened to have a tailgate, not a van trying to look respectable. Triumph also leveraged the car's platform for competition. The factory rally team made the 2000 the focus of their efforts, starting in 1964. Rally cars ran in Group 3 specification with enlarged wheels and brakes, drivetrain modifications, and race-tuned engines fitted with 3 Weber carburetors. In this form, the 6-cylinder produced approximately 150 brake horsepower, though at the expense of flexibility and fuel economy. Export markets proved crucial to the car's success. CKD completely knocked down assembly operations were established in Australia at Australian Motor Industries, in New Zealand at New Zealand Motor Corporation's Nelson plant, and in South Africa. A special Australian version, the 2000 MD for Managing Director, featured knock-off wire wheels, triple Stromberg carburetors, and the battery relocated to the boot. Total production of this variant reached approximately 100 units. The Mark II arrived in October 1969, styled once again by Michelotti. The front end now followed the lines of the upcoming Triumph Stag Grand Tourer. Production continued until 1977, with the entire 2000 and 2500 series reaching 322,302 units across all variants. This made it one of Triumph's best-selling post-war saloons and a commercial success by any measure. Section 6. Legacy and Significance. The Triumph 2000's legacy extends far beyond its production numbers. Together with the Rover P6, it created the compact executive car segment that would eventually be dominated by BMW's 3 Series and Mercedes-Benz's C-Class. In 1963, the idea that you could have refinement, comfort, and prestige in a 2-liter package was revolutionary. The car proved that British manufacturers could compete on engineering sophistication. All independent suspension, disc brakes, and modern styling weren't exclusively Continental preserves. A Coventry factory staffed by British workers could deliver cars that held their own against anything from Germany, Italy, or France. More importantly, the Triumph 2000 demonstrated that there was a market between mainstream family cars and luxury saloons. This segment, what we now call the compact executive or sports saloon category, didn't really exist in Britain before 1963. Triumph and Rover created it together, proving that buyers would pay a premium for refinement and quality in a reasonably sized package. BMW was watching and learning. Their Neue Klasse sedans, which evolved into the legendary 3 Series, owed much to the template established by cars like the Triumph 2000. Values today reflect the car's historical significance while remaining accessible. Average examples trade in the £6,000 to £8,000 range, with exceptional examples commanding up to £20,000. The Mark I cars, particularly early examples with their distinctive black-on-white instruments, tend to attract a premium over the Mark II variants. Compared to its 1963 launch price of £1,094, accounting for inflation gives you a rough equivalent of around £23,000 in today's money. The fact that good examples can be found for significantly less than this makes them an interesting entry point into classic car ownership, particularly for those who remember them when new. The Triumph 2000 arrived at a pivotal moment in British automotive history. While the nation struggled with political scandal and economic uncertainty, here was proof that British engineering could still compete on the world stage. That £1,095 price tag bought you more than just transport. It bought you entry into a new class of executive motoring. The rivalry with the Rover P6 pushed both companies to excel. Neither car might have succeeded without the other. Together, they defined what a compact executive saloon should be, establishing a template that would influence car design for decades to come. For those of you who owned or drove these cars when new, I'd love to hear your memories. Did you choose the Triumph Smooth 6 over the Rover's technically advanced 4? Did you opt for overdrive or the automatic? Share your experiences in the comments below. These personal stories are what bring automotive history to life. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Triumph 2000, please hit that like button and subscribe for more classic car histories. We've got plenty more British automotive stories to explore, from the cars that succeeded to the ones that didn't quite make it. Thank you for watching, and remember, every classic car has a story worth telling. The Triumph 2000 story is one of ambition, innovation, and the determination to compete with the best. In 1963 Britain, that meant everything.